The 2026 Winter Olympics have come to a close. And although he was not able to play in the men's hockey finals, in which Canada lost in overtime because of a goal scored by Jack Hughes, a goal that cost him his two front teeth, the testament to this dangerous sport. Sidney Crosby is one of the greatest athletes of his generation. But unfortunately, his career is marked as much by his injuries as by his achievements. Now, the extraordinary resilience of this athlete is something we'll talk about today as we highlight how fascia and the nervous system can help us understand what really happened to Sidney Crosby and what kind of treatment might help him with the years he has left on and off the ice. We'll talk about neurofeedback, brainwave biofeedback, and look at how the brain and body, the brain and mind help us connect the dots and really understand how we heal. I'm Dr. Richard Nahas, and this is the New Medicine Podcast. And after spending 4 years in the ER and then 2 years backpacking in 30 countries, I spent 20 years practicing integrative medicine and landed on one key idea that can transform healthcare. What I call the blockage hypothesis is about how our scars matter, and treating them might be a historic medical advance. So let's dive in. Jack Hughes, a young man who scored what they call the golden goal, the goal that won the gold medal for the Olympic team hailing from the United States of America, came after an intense third period, some of the most insane hockey any of us have ever seen. Now, I played about a decade of hockey, but I've never been much of a sports fan. That being said, moments like these really help define what it means to be Canadian. And for all of the athletes who placed in the Olympics and those who didn't, what a historic memory, what an opportunity to shine. And the idea that peak performance is something that we should all celebrate and admire is something that is illustrated nowhere else like here. So Sidney Crosby was unfortunately injured in the quarterfinal, a devastating injury for Team Canada, but one that was just one too many. And learning a little bit about Sidney Crosby's story will help us understand why maybe his treatment could have been handled differently, and maybe connecting the dots might serve him well. And what that means for you as you try to navigate your healing journey, whether you're trying to make it to the 2030 Olympics or just trying to make it through the day. So Sidney Crosby was born in Halifax in 1987. That makes him 38 years old. He was a phenomenon from his early days, and he played junior hockey for the Rimouski Océanique in Quebec. I've been to Rimouski on Saint-Jean-Baptiste on an amazing motorcycle trip that I'll tell you more about in another episode. He was drafted by the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round, first overall in the 2005 NHL draft. He was nicknamed Sid the Kid, one of the golden boys that had him pegged as being the next Wayne Gretzky, someone whose ability to see the play and make goals happen and elevate the level of play for everyone on his team was just as remarkable as his ability to skate and shoot and bounce back from injury. He was the youngest captain in NHL history at only 19 years old, a testament to his leadership skills. And his resilience, in addition to his leadership, has made him a case study for CEOs and leaders everywhere. Sidney Crosby did have a chance to score the golden goal. This was in the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver. He won Olympic gold again in 2014. And those were just one part of an illustrious career. He won 3 Stanley Cups with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He was the most valuable player for the season twice, most valuable player for the playoffs twice. And he is one of a few members of what they call the Triple Gold Club, meaning that he won a Stanley Cup, he won Olympic gold, and he also won a world championship. Oddly enough, his father, Troy, was also drafted in the NHL by the Montreal Canadiens, my dad's favorite team, until the Ottawa Senators were born. Sidney Crosby's career has been linked to concussion since an episode that never should have taken place. His first concussion was on New Year's Day in 2011. The NHL Winter Classic, in which he was sideswiped by a player who didn't even need to come near him. He didn't have the puck. He wasn't looking. And as you can see, he was just blindsided. It was only 4 days later that he was hit again from behind, again when he didn't need to be hit. Take a look at this. What an irony that he was hit by someone called Hedman. So he was out because, as we all know, when you've had a concussion, you should not return to sport for several weeks. There's a graded return to play that's now much more consistently enforced, where you have to have no symptoms at rest, and then you have to be able to engage in light practice without symptoms, and then heavy practice without symptoms, and only then can you return to play. Well, this young champion was back on the ice after 4 days, and it should come as no surprise that his second impact was a doozy. It had him out until November, actually the following season. And he returned to the ice for 8 games. His first game back at play, he scored 2 goals and 2 assists, proving to the world how special he was. But that short-lived return had him off about a month later. And he played uneventfully, did really well the following season, but it was again in 2013 that a double impact took this guy out. This time it was a puck in the face. And imagine, this happened again, back to back. Take a look at this first injury that took place in February of that year. Well, that was a significant injury, but a relatively minor one. The champion shrugged it off and went back to playing hockey. But it was on the 30th of March, 2013, that another puck in the face had more dire consequences. Take a look at this. So this time he needed to have surgery. His mandible was fractured, and he was admitted to the UPMC Presbyterian Hospital, the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, where a maxillofacial surgeon, that's a dentist, who's done a second residency program in dental surgery and general surgery, who's done a long residency program that includes head and neck surgery in addition to dental surgery. Bernard Costello, who at the time was the dean of the department at what they call Pitt Dental Medicine. So Sidney Crosby ended up having a titanium plate put into his jaw with screws in the bone. And when he returned to play, he was wearing a very elaborate visor to protect his face. He had groin injuries as well. He had been complaining of groin pain for many years, and several injuries on and off the ice were responsible for this. In fact, he had some groin issues even before the NHL, apparently. Well, take a look at this hockey stick in the groin, one of the injuries that had him out of play for several weeks. So again, Sid the Kid, was treated by the expert of experts, the most specialized specialist, Dr. William Myers, who worked at the Vincera Institute for Groin and Core Injuries in athletes. Now, we're not exactly sure what was done, but he has had groin injuries since. And the injury that took place in the 2026 Winter Olympics was likely something that re-injured an old myofascial chain. Now, it's important to recognize that Sid the Kid should not be playing hockey anymore. If he was a normal human being, those injuries would have ended his career long ago. But this man, like many extraordinary athletes, made it to where he is today, not only because of his exceptional gifts and his talents, but also because, for whatever reason, he was genetically gifted with tissues that heal. And while not all of us have that genetic gift, the lessons that we can learn from what happened to him will serve you well on your journey.